The design community spent 3 years calling Apple Vision Pro the future of UI. Then Apple quietly slashed production. They cut their marketing budget by 95% and stopped talking about it altogether. So I want to ask, where are all those designers now? Look, I'm not here to dunk on Apple. Apple genuinely makes some of the best design products in the industry and everybody actually knows about it. But Apple Vision Pro was a case study in something that the industry does not like to talk about. And that is, designing something pretty is not the same as designing something useful. And if you're a product designer, UX designer, or anyone building digital products, this is something that you should be paying your attention to. Because the mistakes that Apple made in Apple Vision Pro, I see them every single day in portfolio reviews, product pitches, or design reviews. Now today, we're going to break it down. What went wrong, why it went wrong, and what it means for you as a designer. Now let's go back to June 2023. Tim Cook walks on the stage, puts on a headset, and then the entire design industry loses their mind. This is the future of computing. Spatial UI is going to change everything, blah, blah, blah. People are writing blogs, making YouTube videos about it, sharing LinkedIn posts on it. Every single designer with even a decent bit of following had a hot take on it, and all of them were positive about it. Now, the UI was stunning. I will definitely give them that. There were like glass panels floating in space. You could pinch, you could zoom. There was eye tracking. In fact, there was like real depth in the digital interfaces for the first time. But here's the thing about craft. Craft is how well you execute the thing. But true design is whether that thing should even exist. And that is where the conversation stopped. Nobody was asking, who is going to wear this for more than 20 minutes? What is that one unique problem that this solves and the phone does not? And most importantly, why does this cost $3,500 freaking dollars? Like, we were also dazzled by the execution that we forgot to question the basic premise of Apple Vision Pro. And that is a design failure. Not from the marketing team, not from the engineering team, from us, all of us designers. Now, let's talk about what actually happened. IDC reports that Apple Vision Pro sales were about 45,000 units in quarter 4 of 2025. 45,000. And let me put this in context. Apple actually sells 230,000 iPhones every single day. Now, by early 2026, Apple has actually cut down their marketing spend on Apple Vision Pro by 95%. They have cut production significantly. In fact, they have actually stopped expanding to new markets. According to Financial Times, internally, Apple has acknowledged this as a rare failure to draw consumers to a new device. Now, I know some people will say it was never meant for a mass market. It was just the first version of this device. And look, a lot of those arguments are correct. Apple Watch was not an immediate success. Even AirPods took a few years to catch on. But here's the difference. With AirPods, the use case was pretty clear from the get-go. You put them in, you start hearing the music, and you walk free. But with Apple Vision Pro, even after 3 years, most people still can't answer who is it for. Now, that's not a pricing problem. It's not an engineering problem. This is a design problem, and a huge one. So let's break down where the design actually went wrong, and there are 3 specific failures. Failure number 1. They designed for a posture where nobody's actually living in. Think about how you use your phone. You're eating, you're scrolling, you're pooping, you're on a bus, you're lying down at 11 a.m. watching things that you shouldn't be, but you're using your phone. Now, replace that with a 600-gram basket on your head. Now, let me tell you what Apple's own design guidelines say. Keep main content in the field of view so people don't move their neck and body too much. Like, they literally wrote the problem in their own documentation. So Apple knew that the device created discomfort, and instead of solving it, they wrote a guideline around it. This is basically designing around a constraint, not really addressing it and solving it. Failure number 2. The use case of Apple Vision Pro was actually fantasy. Apple Vision Pro demos showed people doing video calls in their living rooms. They showed people editing timelines on a virtual cinema-like screen. They even showed people looking at spatial photos of their kids. All of this looked incredible, but none of it reflected how people actually live their lives. Now, here's the real design principle. You don't get to choose how people live their life. You discover it. They build their product around a human behavior that does not really exist, which is a person sitting still in their room. The room is well lit, they're not moving, and they're completely focused for an extended period of time. That person is fiction. Failure number 3. The spatial UI mental model was fundamentally broken. Now, this one is subtle, but it's the most important one, so pay attention. When we design for mobile screens, people have decades of shared understanding. People know what buttons look like, people know how to click, people know when to pinch or swipe or zoom. So the mental model there is already established. But the spatial UI had none of that. And instead of building something radically simple, something where a new mental model could be gently enforced, Apple just threw a whole operating system on people. They tried to skip the user education phase. They assumed that if the interface looks fancy, people would just figure it out. Well, they did not. By the way, if you are liking this kind of breakdown, I'm going to do this often on this channel, so hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, here is what I actually want you to take away from all of this. Because this is not a story about Apple failing. Apple has a lot of money. They have more money than most countries. This is a story about a trap that every designer at every level is vulnerable to. And we call it designing for the future. But what it actually is designing for admiration instead of designing for the real person. When we're designing for admiration, we ask questions like, does this look impressive? Will people respect us for building it? Or does this look like it belongs to 2030? But when we're designing for the real person, we ask, what does the person really need? What is the person even doing when they reach for this device? In fact, what can we do that would make the user's day teeny bit better? Now, Vision Pro was a masterpiece when it comes to the first part, the admiration part, but it completely ignored the second part, which is the human needs part. And I wanted to be honest with yourself because I've seen this in a lot of designers' work. How many times have you designed something that looked incredible as a prototype, but when the users started using it, they were struggling? How many times have you defended a design decision because it felt visionary, not because it solved a user problem? Apple is not alone in this. This is a human thing. This is a designer thing. We fall in love with the ideas. We fall in love with the craft. In fact, we fall in love with the version of the future that we have built inside our heads. But we stop listening to the person that is standing right in front of us. Vision Pro will come back. A lighter version, a cheaper version, a more practical version that fits into the user's daily life. Because the best design isn't the one that people look at and say, wow. It's actually the version that people reach for without even thinking about it. Apple Vision Pro wasn't a failure of technology. It was not also a failure of craft. It was a failure of asking the right question. And the right question is always, who is this for and what does their life actually look like? You as a designer need to ask that question early. You need to ask it often and you need to let the answer of this question change how you work. Drop in the comments, have you ever shipped something that looked great but totally missed the user? I want to hear honest answers. And if you want to go deeper on this, I have a video coming up on how design systems are making the same mistake, how they are designing for scale, not designing for people. So if you want to watch that video, subscribe and I'll see you there.